Hello, today's video focuses on Gerald Croft. Now I've not done one on Gerald before, but I'm trying to do more videos that show students how to go from that essay question through to the plan, all the way through to the finish line, that A-star paragraph. So, in a moment of pure, uncut genius, I've decided to combine the two, and this video will focus on an essay question, an exam question, revolving around Gerald Croft. I tell you, sometimes I'm so clever, I frighten myself a little. Anyway, enough shameless self-promotion, on with the show. And here is our essay question. How does Priestley present Gerald Croft in an Inspector Calls? Now, the next slide will identify the key words here. And that's an important step for you to do when you're in the exam hall, because you'll be breaking down, you'll be clarifying what is it exactly the examiner is asking me to do. Right, so I've highlighted the key words in this essay question. How does Priestley present Gerald Croft in an Inspector Calls? The reason I've highlighted how is because the examiner is asking us two things here. Firstly, he's asking us to think about the language techniques and the structural techniques that are used to present or show Gerald Croft. His metaphor used to present him, his stage direction, are there certain exchanges of dialogue with other characters which help to present Gerald Croft here. So that's one way of reading how. The second way of reading how in this question is to think in terms of adjectives. How is Gerald Croft presented? Is he presented as ugly, stupid, funny, greedy, smelly? What word could we use to describe Gerald Croft? So how having one or perhaps two functions there. Present basically means how is Gerald Croft depicted? How does Priestley put him across to the audience? How is he shown? And of course, common sense dictates that we highlight Gerald Croft because the whole question is about him. I mean, if there's some Herbert who's using this question as a springboard to explore their views and ideas on Mr. Berlin, then they're going howlingly wrong, aren't they? I'm going to gloss very quickly over this slide because you've probably seen it before in some of my other videos. It just outlines what to expect on the day if you sit in the AQA exam. You'll have 45 minutes to tackle that Inspector Calls question. There's a choice of two questions. One will be thematic, focusing on a theme. The other will be focusing on a character. You only answer one of those questions. Don't waste your time answering two. And the way I prefer to do it is I plan for 15 minutes, write for 25, and then spend 5 minutes at the end just taking a tooth comb to my work, making sure the spelling's kosher, full stops in the right place, that kind of thing. And that 5 minutes at the end is so valuable. I do not care if you are a candidate for Oxford University or you've just learned to spell your own name. You will have made a mistake. You need to go back, check the full stops in the right place, commas are used accurately, have you spelt that high level word incorrectly, exploited proletaria. This is valuable time to verify that what you're doing is exactly as it should be. I'm going to gloss very quickly over this slide as well. At the top you've got the mark scheme. This is the criteria that the examiner uses to judge you. What I've done at the bottom is I've translated that examiner speak into plain English. Examiner speak is not written for you. This is the criteria that comes in the examiner's booklets. It's designed for the examiner. It's designed for teachers. It's not really designed for students. So my plain English interpretation at the bottom should really clarify what it is you're being asked to do. And the reason it's all 6.1, 6.2, 6.3 is because band 6 is the top band. We're all aiming for A stars here. Irrespective of ability, we're reaching for those stars. And that's why I've given you the top band translation. Here you can see I've cobbled together some ideas that I could use in response to that essay question on Gerald Croft. Now, given that I've only got 45 minutes to plan and crank out this response, there's every chance I won't get round to doing all of these ideas. And certainly the plans you're going to see today, where I take a point and develop it, then turn it into a proper paragraph, those plans and those points are not actually on the screen now. I'll be looking at some different points. But if you want to pause the screen just to get an overview of Gerald's character, that would be a shrewd idea, I guess. So here is my first point. The question, of course, was how does Priestley present Gerald Croft in an Inspector Calls? And my response to that, because my point should always respond to the essay question, my response is that Gerald is presented as shockingly shallow. Now, what do I mean by shallow? What I mean is that Gerald isn't really interested in intellectual stimulation. He's not really trying to develop a noble soul or a beautiful personality. Now, while Gerald doesn't contemplate life, love, and the universe, shallow then means you're more concerned with looks, appearances, and having a good time. Think Joey Essex, basically, or one of those other doofuses off Towie. Oh, look at that! My stars, what a beauty! Now, I've said before, you don't need to do a plan which is as pretty as mine. The only reason I've done it like this is just for the sake of clarity, so you can see what I'm doing. And as you can see, starting at the middle, I've got a point, that point that Gerald is presented as shockingly shallow, and then moving on to my evidence, I hate those hard-eyed, dough-faced women, and then I move on to my explanation. So it's a classic PEE structure, point, evidence, explanation. But, and here's where the magic happens, you'll notice that I've stretched out my explanation to include 4 details. I call this stretching the arrow. So I've made my first explanation based on that evidence. I hate those hard-eyed, dough-faced women. My first bit of explanation is that Gerald views and values women based mainly on their appearance. Then I've stretched the arrow on to lock in on that word hate. That shows and it emphasises the depth of his feelings. But I'm not done there, no sir, because I'm going for that A star. So I've stretched the arrow again. And I've linked this to J.B. Priestley attacking the kind of shallow or superficial values of the Edwardian era. Remember, this play is set in 1912. Written in 1945, set in 1912. And he's arguing, Priestley's asserting here, that this Edwardian society prioritises and lionises surface and appearance over inner worth. Now, frankly, I reckon at this stage I've already secured that A, possibly that A star. But just to ensure I'm really hitting those high notes, I've stretched the arrow again with my 4th point, explanation 4. I've said it's quite ironic, really, when you think that Gerald criticises the ugliness of these working class women, because basically it's the capitalist exploitation practised by his family and the Berlin family which makes these women so ugly. They age so badly. It's a bit like Victor Frankenstein in the novel. He's always going on about how ugly the monster is, and you want to grab him by the lapels and say, well, listen, Chuckles, you made him that way, you invented him. You can see the same thing here. You want to say to Gerald, well, listen, Chuckles, you made him that ugly by draining the life force out of them and working them so brutally that they age prematurely. And here we have it, that end product, positively bristling with A star goodness. I'll read it to us, and then over the next few slides I'm just going to link it briefly to the mark scheme, the examiner's criteria, so you can see why it is an A star. In Priestley's text, Gerald is presented as shockingly shallow. Gerald states, I hate those hard-eyed, dough-faced women. This highlights his views on women are based mainly on their appearance. The word hate emphasises the depth of these feelings. Priestley attacks the superficial values of the Edwardian era here, suggesting they prioritise surface over inner worth. Moreover, it's ironic that Gerald attacks the ugliness of working class women, given that the capitalist exploitation practised by his family firm is responsible for their ageing so badly. Now, before we go on to the next few slides and begin looking at how this paragraph satisfies the examiner's criteria to get the A star, I just want you to lock on a few details here. I'm abiding by, in this paragraph, the PEE format. I put in my point, which is linked to the essay question, then I add my evidence and then my explanation. My evidence is the line, Gerald states, I hate those hard-eyed, dull-faced women. Now, I could have just said, I hate those hard-eyed, dull-faced women. The fact that I started it with Gerald states is me embedding my quotation into my own sentence. And it just creates a little bit of fluency. The examiner appreciates that because it sounds better. Later on in the paragraph, you'll notice I begin a line, moreover, it's ironic that Gerald attacks. Now, the reason I've used a connective like moreover, and I could have used in addition, furthermore, also, the reason I use this connective is just to signpost to the examiner that I'm delving deeper. I'm going into deeper analysis. It's a little kind of wave, a finger waggle at the examiner to notify me of my intentions. Here we are linking the paragraph to the mark scheme, the examiner's criteria. 6.1, you need to answer the question you've been set. And you can see my point there, Gerald presented and shallow. All these words respond to that essay question. How does Priestley present Gerald? I'm saying Gerald is presented as shallow. There's no danger there of me deviating from that task. 6.2. This bit of mark criteria said you need to say some intelligent things about the play. And my goodness, I do that. I talk about Priestley attacking the shallow values, the superficial values, the Edwardian era. And also I've implied that it's ironic Gerald attacks the ugliness of the working class because the capitalist exploitation that he practices makes them so ugly. 6.3 was basically to look at things in detail rather than just skimming over, and, well, that whole paragraph is an ode. It's a celebration of in-depth analysis. So I'm ticking that box too. 6.4, analysing language or structure. You've got to do this. It breaks my heart when I see well-written essays which don't consider the effects of the words that Priestley employs. So I've made a point here of locking in on that word hate and saying what the effect of that is. If I don't look at language, if I don't explore words or the structure of the text, my grade is going to suffer so badly. 6.5 was asking to think about the messages or themes, ideas that Priestley is trying to convey to his audience. And I've suggested here that Priestley is attacking those shallow values, superficial values of the Edwardian era and saying that they care more about appearance than inner values, inner worth. I'm going to gloss over this one very quickly. This is my second point. Again, I've done a plan and you can see I've stretched that arrow to go even deeper into my explanation, just to ensure I'm getting an A star by really delving and analysing the full implications of that evidence. The plan is farther to the paragraph, and you can see here how I've turned that plan that you just saw on the previous slide into a polished A star paragraph. I'm going to read it, but it's up to you if you wish to think about the mark scheme, the mark criteria, and consider how you think this is an A star. But I'll read it very quickly. Gerald contributes to the tense atmosphere that prevails during the dinner party at the start of Act 1. His excuse for avoiding Sheila last summer is, "I was awfully busy," which compels Sheila to adopt a half-serious, half-playful tone. This creates tension because there is clearly an anxiety in Sheila's response to her fiancé, which foreshadows the revelation of Gerald's affair later in the play. The fact that her words are half-playful towards Gerald serves to highlight that this is supposed to be a light-hearted, celebratory dinner. Moreover, the half-serious note helps to undermine the happiness of the occasion, which foreshadows the inspector's arrival later in Act 1. When he enters, that relaxed, celebratory atmosphere is totally destroyed. The dialogue between Sheila and Gerald, then, is key to the play's tension. That last line that I plonked in, the dialogue between Gerald and Sheila, then, is key to the play's tension. The reason I put that in is just in case the examiner was harbouring doubts that I was focusing more on Sheila here than Gerald. I think that I was focusing on Gerald here, but just to kind of reinforce that, I've linked my last line back to the essay question to ensure that I'm staying task focused. And there you have it. Time, gentlemen, please. We've looked at Gerald Croft, we've considered an exam question, broken it down to keywords, and then we've planned and executed a silky A-star paragraph. It only remains for me to wish you the best of British luck in the exam and hope you knock the examiner's socks off.